So the real headline should be the real estate market is not crashing. Why not? It seems like it should be, but it's not. But that will never be the headline. Why? You know, when I prepare this email every week and the video goes along with it, I'm always amazed at the dishonesty and the poor information in the real estate industry news. It just seems so dishonest and so invaluable to my customers. I think the real amazing news is, despite a global pandemic, despite war in Europe or whatever you want to call Ukraine and Russia, despite maybe possible war with China and Taiwan, despite a global recession and or depression, massive layoffs in the tech sector, the U.S. government up against the debt ceiling, all these things going on. The real amazing thing is that the housing market is not crashing. That should be the amazing story, and the resiliency to explain why. Let's take a look at the data before we get started, and then we'll see where the market really is. So one of the key things I always start on is two important pieces of data. Number one, inventory, because in any market, there's buyers and sellers, sellers represented by the houses. What's the number? And right now, we can see that the number of unsold houses right now, 411,000, is somewhat more than it was in 2022, a year ago, less than 2020, the beginning of the pandemic, which was the lowest year on record at the time, lower than 2018, lower than 2019. So we have maybe the second lowest or third lowest of all time, still in a pandemic global recession low of inventory, not high inventory. Now, if we had high inventory, that means a lot of sellers might want to have to sell and would cut their prices, and that will cause the housing crisis. This is the opposite. We're still at historic lows in inventory. We're not even at normal historic levels. We can't have a housing crash start from inventory that's historic low. That's why all the news is focused on, oh, well, inventory is higher than it was a year or two ago. Well, yeah, there's also more toilet paper in the stores than it was 2 years ago. That doesn't mean the toilet paper market is crashing. That means it's returning to a normal market. Okay, so that's the number one, is the inventory. Number two is mortgage rates. If you remember, what drove the market initially for the last 4 or 5 years was the decline in interest rates from 7 to 6 to 5 to 4 to 3 to below 3 was the peak. And even in the global pandemic, rates had gone down and shot back up again. The thing you have to remember is when rates went from below 3 to 6, 6.5, briefly towards 7, it looked like, well, rates could continue to go up. You had stories about hyperinflation. Rates could go to 10%, 15%. Clearly, that would be a major problem economically for our economy overall. What's happened since? Well, for a variety of reasons, I'm not sure anybody knows all of them, interest rates clearly are not continuing to go up, and in fact, so far this year, have come down a bit from over 6.5% at the beginning of the year at times to now slightly above 6% at 6.15% closing on Friday. So the drop in rates means that buyers can afford a little more house for the same money. Again, for a global for a crisis or crash, you would need rates to be going up, making it harder for people to buy. Rates going down is making it easier for people to buy. Therefore, prices are not going to jump up as quick as it might otherwise. So those are the two, what I would call, most important factors in the market. And as long as those two are where they are or improving or near about that level, we can't have a housing crash. One of the other statistics that's worth watching is affordability. How many people, percentage of the market, can afford to buy houses? Now, when rates went up, that meant the payments went up, and prices went up. It meant that it was harder for buyers to buy property, and the affordability went down. And you're hearing statistics now about how it's dropped so dramatically over last year. Again, adjusting to pre-pandemic. Let's take a look at the actual data, see what the numbers look like. Here's Fannie Mae. They're saying that they're projecting a drop in affordability down to levels that still would be above every year since 2008. So while it's true that the percentage of income on mortgages has climbed to record levels, and we expect that to moderate for a variety of reasons, even if it comes down to that level projected, it still would be housing affordable more so than any time in history for the last 14 years or 15 years or so. No telling how long that's going to take. So again, I think that the focus on affordability is a scare tactic. When you look at the data and break it down, it's certainly an opportunity for people to buy houses today that want to. Now, the news is not going to not print news. They're not going to go after clicks. And as a result, they're going to take one piece of information and exaggerate it to get a lot of people to look at it. So let's take a look at a couple of these. One, the most recent offender that I found is Redfin. Redfin says there are 54% more homes for sale in December compared to 2021. Now, that's not true. That's just not true. We've looked at the inventory numbers. Even if it was true, it's higher by their standards, by their statistics, than the pandemic levels. But look at the drop to the pre-pandemic numbers. They're saying, oh, wow, inventory is much higher than it was the last 2 years while we're locked in our houses, wearing masks, getting vaccines. It's much lower than any other normal year in history. So the fact that it's higher by their statistics, which I don't think are accurate, but even if they are, their own graph just shows how ridiculous the statement is. Again, this is like toilet paper inventory getting back to normal levels. I think we would all expect that's happened at some point in time. So to me, that's just Redfin creating some fake news, trying to get people to click and to read on them. Not to be outdone, here in Los Angeles, our local KTLA Channel 5 has a story. LA home prices dropped second most in the nation in December. Inventory remains high. Now, we know inventory is not high. It's higher than a year ago. It may be the same as 2 years ago, but it's low by historical standards. But it says prices dropped by the second most. Let's take a look at the actual prices. The actual price per square foot has dropped a little bit. In fact, we're now back to about January 2021. We're back about midway through the pandemic level. But notice by historical standards, the value of houses is higher than ever. And so all we've done now is corrected some from the ridiculous rates from during the pandemic. So again, when KTLA 5 makes it sound like home prices dropped, a better wording would be it corrected a bit back towards pre-pandemic levels. And again, I think that's the overwhelming theme of all this is the market is returning to normal and appears, based on where inventory is and rates are, appears to be very healthy. Here's another misleading article. This one is also in Redfin. They get 2 black marks this week. This one was an article they ran talking about how many homes sold above asking price. So it turns out that 21 homes sold recently in January above the list price. Now that's down from 40% a year earlier during the pandemic and the lowest since March 2020, since the lockdown. So all they're saying is that these numbers are lower than the pre-pandemic lows, but notice it's above 2020. And if the chart is above 2019, 18, 17, because historically about 17 to 20% of our homes sold above list price, and about another 5% sold at the list price. So this number is, again, saying that the numbers are reducing back to closer to pre-pandemic norms, but still historically good numbers by any measure. And again, I think Redfin gets that number wrong, is misled. Now, my real penalty flag for the week, though, unfortunately goes to my association of realtors, the California Association of Realtors, because it's one thing for organizations to focus on their business and say it's difficult. It's another thing to kind of lose attention to what you're supposed to work on. Here's California Association of Realtors, 3 press releases so far this year. One was they put statistics on January 18th for the December home sales market. Now, to me, I don't know why it would take you more than a couple days to add the data up and put the report out. That should be out January 3rd or 4th, maybe the holidays, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th. January 18th, no business waits 18 days later to file numbers unless you're getting them audited by an accountant of some sort. But notice the other 2 things they've done this month are just political. They basically have a statement regarding the governor's budget, which is supporting his initiatives, and that the CAR, they put a press release out that they're suing the city of Beverly Hills. So rather than focusing on helping their members like me sell more houses, or help our customers sell more houses, the CAR is actually actively in a lawsuit suing a city because they disagree with the city's policies. And I think that without getting politically whether the city is right or wrong, it just seems to me that an association of business people should have something more productive to do than hiring attorneys and suing somebody. It just doesn't seem to me to be the core. If the city of Beverly Hills is violating the law, doesn't the city of LA and county and state have resources to do that? I don't understand why California Association of Realtors is suing on behalf of the residents. It makes no sense to me. And again, what should they be doing? Helping us sell more houses, helping educate buyers with good information and sellers, and helping and educating agents rather than getting involved in politics and litigation. So at the end of the day, the information is misleading. What should you do? Well, remember where the market is. Right now, we are adjusting post-pandemic to a normal market. And based on where we are historically, the normal market today is historically a good, solid market. Prices are going up at a historically normal level. Mortgage rates are adjusting back to levels that were beforehand. If you're looking to buy a property and you can afford the payment, if you haven't been laid off, if you're one of the group of people that's not on the downside but on the upside, great time to buy a house. Great time to lock in a rate. And many lenders are offering a free refinance if rates go down. So a great time to buy a house. If you're looking to sell, there's buyers that are looking to buy houses right now. And if you're looking to sell to buy somewhere else, there's a little more inventory than there was 6 months ago, might make it easier for you to find what you're looking for. So as always, it's depending on your situation. Don't pay attention to the headlines. If I can help, call me, text me, email me, as always, at BillGrossEXP. I'm here to help you and make today your best day ever. Thanks so much.